to just drill me for 30 minutes.
All right, here we go. We're live. Welcome to the new year, everyone. We're here with Greg Harrelson, the Harrelson Hangout. As you know, we do Greg does a live coaching call with one of his agents, where he basically just helps train them and kind of go through where they're at in their business and just trying to build his entire business as he does this. So Brittany may be jumping on. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but right now me and Greg are just gonna go back and forth, and I'm gonna ask him a ton of questions, and I'm gonna get all the knowledge that's in his head out to you guys. So this could be amazing. Basically, Greg, welcome. Thank you for doing this every month for everyone that watches. And
yeah,
man, I'm excited.
Good. Well, hey, yeah, for all those that are watching, I said we got a little computer issues on our side, so we got some people trying to work it out. But Scott, instead of counseling on everybody, why don't this may be a blessing in disguise. So, why don't you go ahead? I think you had some questions that you were running by me earlier today. Why don't you just shoot, man? Just kind of think like other agents, and share with me some questions that you're hearing in the marketplace. And maybe we can talk about the differences between 2016 and 2015 and see if we can just deliver some value through this hangout.
Well, absolutely. So let's just start first with some of the changes that you saw in the mortgage industry at the end of last year, the rate adjustments, and are you seeing any effect so far, or is that further out down the road later this year? And kind of tell me, let's just jump there, and then we're gonna then from there I want to kind of jump into where an agent should be at right now with their business. We're 3 weeks into the year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So did the interest rates affect our business? I should say I haven't seen any measurable changes right now, but what I would say is this: yes, it's going to affect our business, but is it going to affect it positively or negatively? Not quite sure, but here's the key. Interest rates are probably going to continue to go up, but they're going to go up based on the confidence in the economy. This is my opinion. Of course, I'm not an economist, but as their confidence gets grows in our economy, then they're going to get more confident in raising the rates. At the same time, though, what we saw with the interest rates, now we're seeing a lot of volatility in the stock market. So I think we all, as real estate professionals, we have to really be paying attention right now, because you got a little volatility in interest rates, you got volatility in the stock market, you got who knows what the heck's going to happen with the during this election year. There's a lot of things going on. So here's what I look at: when there's a lot of certainty in a market. And I know you and Frank know this word certainty from Tony Robbins. When there's a lot of certainty in the market, then the markets tend to be very stable and have a lot of upside potential. When there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, then in my opinion, the market has its risk, and the risk of downside is a little bit more prevalent than if there's certainty. So each one of us as business people need to answer this question: do you believe there's a lot of certainty in our real estate market and in our country, in our economy right now, or do you believe there's a lot of uncertainty? I'll leave it up to each one of you to decide on your own. But if anybody thinks that there's some uncertainty in our economy and in markets in general, then I would say, hey, we got to keep our eyes on that and say, man, there's potential for a little bit of a slowdown. But again, I don't want to pretend I have a crystal ball, but I feel like there's a lot of uncertainty across the United States right now.
I would agree with you, but we can kind of leave it at that. But yeah.
Yes, right, exactly.
Brittany, can you hear us? We cannot hear you. Your mic's not working. Okay, so try to adjust the settings on the Hangout, and we can keep going. So I'm going to ask Greg another question, though, while we're waiting for you. Greg, so we talked about the market just then. What specifically could someone be doing to prepare themselves if they think maybe there is some uncertainty in the real estate market right now? What are you teaching your team or having your team do to create a better foundation for your business?
Okay, good question. And I tell you, so the last month, maybe 2 months, I have really been teaching the agents in my office. We've been having conversations based on what if. what if the market was to go down? You know, the interesting thing is this, is if you prepare for a shifting market and the market never shifts, then you actually can grow your business. But if you fail to prepare for a shifting market and the market shifts, you can lose a ton of business. So we never really know what's going to happen. So what I've been doing is I've been preparing for a potential shift. And so the first thing that I like to look at and talk about is not shifting of number of transactions, but how's the consumer shifting? Okay? So right now, because I believe there's uncertainty, then the consumer tends to seek out those professionals that have the highest amount of knowledge. So when there's a lot of certainty in the market and the market's really hot and everything's selling, days on the market's really low, then John Doe seller has all the confidence in the world that he can hire little Johnny, his nephew, because you know what? The market's going to sell the property anyway. There's nothing really an agent's going to do, right? That's what happens in a certain environment and when there's a lot of certainty, okay? But when there's uncertainty, then all of a sudden that seller decides and that buyer says, you know what? I don't want to trust my assets in the hands of somebody that's just starting out, that doesn't have a lot of experience, maybe that I don't really know if they have good skills and knowledge. So the real shift is going to start from the consumer. The shift in number of listings, transactions, and all that, that's a byproduct of a mental shift of the consumer. So if anyone actually believes this, and they believe like I do, that that there'll be a mental shift in the consumer will start to gravitate towards agents that really know what they're doing, then you got to make sure as an agent that number one, you have high level of skills, and number two, you know how to effectively communicate those skills. Because you may have a lot of knowledge and a lot of skills, but you may not know how to deliver a presentation that communicates those skills, so they don't actually know your value. So that's what we're really talking about, is increasing our skills and then also having conversation about being able to demonstrate and educate people of what value that we're bringing to the transaction.
Excellent. Brittany, can you talk to see if we can? Yep. We still can't hear you, so that's a bummer. We really want to interview Brittany for you all.
Yes, we do. Brittany is a superstar in the making, and if we cannot talk to Brittany today, surely she will be on the next Hangout. But again, our promise to everyone who tunes in for these Harrelson Hangouts is that we'll deliver unconditional value, and that's what we're just going to continue to do.
Yeah. So I got another question follow up from what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So you talked about skills and making sure that they can deliver a really good presentation and they're educating and that they have the knowledge to talk to whether it's a buyer or a seller. Is there different training that you're giving them to be able to handle the objections of someone that's starting to feel like that this maybe isn't the right market or that the market's turning and they're uncertain about whether or not they should be even buying or selling? Is there some specifics that you're going through with them in the office now to kind of handle those objections?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the key. As real estate professionals, we are not in the business of talking people into buying or talking people into selling. What we're in the business of doing is identifying people that are looking to buy or looking to sell, identifying why they're looking to buy and why they're looking to sell, and then matching up those desires with the perfect properties or the perfect marketing plan in the event that we're actually selling the property. So no matter whether there's certainty, uncertainty, it's a hot market or a cold market, a real estate agent's job is not to actually convince people to do anything, with the exception of once they've already decided to do something like buy or sell, your only job is to convince them to do the transaction with you, not to actually convince them to do the transaction. So when it comes to the buyer, that never shifts. But here's the key in all this, Scott, is that, and let's talk about buyers for a minute. One of the things that I've been talking about with my agents is a good listing agent should always ask the seller, why are you selling? But how many buyer's agents or agents working with buyers ask the buyer, why are you buying? Because, just like a seller, a buyer has motivation too. Okay. Now, whether or not the buyer says, well, I'm buying because it's a job relocation. Okay, great. Or I'm buying because I want a second home and I want to create memories for my family. Okay, great. The key is you have to dig under, you have to peel the onion multiple layers deep and get down to the core motivation of why they're selling and why they're buying. And if you can get to the core motivation and identify the why, then now again, it's just matching them up with the right property or the right marketing plan. And that's what we're working on, because most of the time in a hot market, buyers are calling and says, I want to look at this house over on XYZ Street. And agent says, okay, great. Are you qualified? And of course they say, yes, I've got a pre-approval letter, or you send them to a bank. And that's about the limit of the questions. In an uncertain market, you cannot limit the questions to just whether or not somebody's qualified. You got to dig deep and find out why they're wanting to do the transaction.
I love it. That's awesome. All right, we're gonna ask Brittany again if she can talk. Nope. Nope.
No.
Mic's not working. Can you hear us? You can hear us though, right? Oh, that's maybe try getting a headset and plugging it in and then jumping back in after that. That'd be like one last tip, and then I might have to not bring you on because we're gonna run out of time.
No problem.
Greg, I love what you went through there, and I think a lot of agents don't necessarily think like that. They think that they have to convince someone to be doing something, or they're selling. Really, they're educating and helping that buyer or seller make the best decision possible, and whether or not it's right for them to be even in the market.
Yeah.
So
let me add just another way to think about this. So it's the difference between becoming an information gatherer or an information giver. So we have to be better gatherers and be a little bit patient on the giving of the information. Okay, so asking questions is a way to gather information about somebody and about what they're looking to accomplish. Real estate agents are just too quick to give out their information. And I'm not talking about withholding the price. I'm not talking about that type of information. I'm talking about like when you go into the doctor's office and the doctor weighs you. Or no, the nurse weighs you. They check in your ears. They check your eyes. What are they doing? They're gathering information. They're putting it all on a chart. And when the doctor comes in, before he comes in the room, he reviews that information, and then he starts giving you information, even though he probably asked a few more questions. We have to bring that type of process to our clients. And one of the things that will happen when you bring that type of strategy to your clients is your clients will actually start to see you as an authority and not just somebody who's trying to make a sale. So there's a whole process to this. If you go consult with an attorney, the first thing an attorney's going to do is going to ask you questions. They're going to gather. A financial advisor is going to gather information about you, your past investing patterns, what your goals are for retirement, your tolerance of risk, how emotional you are about losing and gaining money. They're going to gather, and then they're going to finally give. And that's the presentation we have to be involved in.
So is that what you're currently training with a lot of your agents right now, making sure that they're really dialed in with those skills to go through those questions, to gather that information so that they can really advise their client?
Absolutely, 100%. These have been the nature of the last few coaching conversations we've had.
Yeah. Brittany, we can still not hear you. You have to change the setting on the mic and the settings in the Hangout to the headset now. I know, this is crazy. All right, Greg. So, what else? What else are you guys working on? We kind of went through that right now. What else are you guys working on your business to grow in 2016? I mean, we're in the first month. We got a lot of time and a lot of things to do. I'm sure there's a lot of goals for the Harrelson Group. So, talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess the points that I'm focusing on is right now moving into 2016 and this is always the case. So if anyone ever hears me speak in these hangouts or videos that I might put, I'm always talking about contacts. So number one is to never get away from making 3 hours worth of prospecting calls and making contacts on a daily basis. And it's one of those things from as a team leader or a company owner, it's one of those things that I have to remind the agents all the time. It doesn't matter. All agents need to be reminded all the time. It's no different than everyone who wants to work out, they need to be reminded that they need to go work out. It's nothing negative. It's not a bad thing that we have to constantly revisit the conversation, but it is a conversation that we are revisiting right now. It's make your contacts, commit to 3 hours of prospecting every day, get it done, and be very efficient, and don't be interrupted distracted during those 3 hours. That's number one. Number two, it's understanding again that in an uncertain world or an uncertain economy, we know people want true professionals, so we all need to up our game in our presentation skills. We have to be masters at the presentation. So I'm challenging some of the agents to get so good at their presentations that they're just willing to sit or stand in front of the entire office and do their presentation. Brittany, can we hear you now, Brittany? No. Okay, I
Now,
thought I
I
heard
would,
her.
she would have to, Brittany, you'd have to close out and try to come back in with the headset. So you have to close out and try to come back in, and then that might work. It might pick it up.
The
Um,
other, the third thing that I
so
wanted
is
to mention.
that's like a kind of a culture building thing, right? Like you're trying to build really by getting people to do that in presentation in front of the whole office is kind of to get others inspired to up their skill set, essentially, right?
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit of everything. Whoever accepts the challenge, obviously their skills have to go to another level in order for them to even be brave enough and have the courage to do that. And then on top of that, then the people watching them get inspired and say, okay, maybe I can do this too. And then what we're really wanting to do is actually critique that in live. So after they do the presentation, the other ones get to critique. Okay, so while they're critiquing, they're taking themselves through a whole journey in while they're actually critiquing someone else. So we just see that everyone benefits from that. It becomes actually something that it becomes fun, but you always have to have a few people that are willing to kind of step out and get out of their comfort zone first, so then the other ones can see that it's really not that bad. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what's happening. There was another thing that we're working on that I find very, very important. There's a lot of people in the real estate industry. We're all talking about building our databases, building our databases, building our databases. I think that we're making a turn, okay? And Zillow, one thing Zillow's done right is they've built an audience. While real estate agents are building databases, they're building an audience. And so I'm really getting away from thinking about building our database. That doesn't mean I'm getting away from actually building a database. I am, but instead of speaking to a database like it's a database, we have to speak to a database like it's an audience. So what that means to me is when we have a database, when we have an audience, then we're kind of like on a stage and we've got to deliver value to that audience all the time. Not just deliver a bunch of emails and a bunch of videos just to say that we're communicating with them a couple times a month. We actually have to spend more time on the message that we're sending out, knowing that if we don't deliver value 100% of the time, they're never going to buy a ticket to listen to us again. So I'm really focusing on, looking at our databases and figuring out how can we up the game on databases, turn it into an audience where we have thousands and thousands of people tuned into us on a weekly or monthly basis.
I think that's I think what you're saying is really smart and absolutely. I mean, the term database is an all-encompassing term. It needs to be more specific than that. And talking, sending again, it goes back to marketing 101 where you have the message, and your message goes to the right market, right? And you need to be completely adding value. So, what are some of the things that you're adjusting maybe in your marketing to do that, to really educate, add value, be specific to the right audience? And are you segmenting your databases differently? Are you doing anything a little bit differently than you were before?
Yeah, I mean, on the segmentation of the databases, we're doing it the same because we've always been segmenting them, all the way down to community names. But what I'm doing now is making sure that, let's just say we have 100 community names, which we have quite a bit more than that. But what we'll do is, instead of sending our newsletter or our video out to all of them, all encompassing, all at one time, knowing if, let's say you had 100 neighborhoods, instead of sending one market update to 100 neighborhoods, what we're really focusing on is sending one marketing message, but branding it 100 times. So the person that's receiving it will actually see and experience it as if it was only sent to their one neighborhood. That's the type of thing, because before we could just send something out, years ago we just do a big email blast, and not everyone was doing it, so most people would watch it or look at it. Then all of a sudden, then we had to be more specific and segment it from buyers to sellers, and then all of a sudden, that still maintained a lot of engagement. Well, now we've got to not only segment it from, real estate to buyer or seller, but now we got to segment it to location, geographical area that they're looking for, or that they might be they may be living in, and then pattern the message to that. So it really comes back to one-on-one communication. You've got to simulate one-on-one communication. That's what it's all about. Or else, in my opinion, people are just going to lose value out of their databases dramatically in the next couple of years.
I couldn't agree more with you. I don't even know what else to say on that. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, and that's something that we preach here at Vyral, obviously, is truly adding value, educating, making sure that your message is specific enough to really help the people that you're sending information to, and that needs to be your overall agenda. What you're thinking constantly is what I'm sending or publishing actually helping? Because if you're not, then people aren't paying attention anymore, because there's too much information. As you talked about, everyone's sending some sort of email, right? So how do you stand out?
Everyone's sending, and you know what? Sometimes it's as easy as sending it with different subject lines, and let the subject line be the differentiation between one segment, one segment versus another segment. Like you could send the same video. Let's just say, for Vyral standpoint, you could create a video on whatever the latest video that you're recommending is, and then, but in the actual subject line, you could have it that subject, and then just put the name of the community in parentheses if you wanted to, and and then send it out only to that one community. Do that for 3 months in a row, and I know people are thinking, gosh, that would be a lot of work. I understand it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work to actually deliver a lot of value. I mean, that's the bottom line. But those who are willing to work hard to deliver the value, they're also going to get a lot of return. A lot of work, a lot of value, a lot of return. It's just the way that it works, okay? So if somebody actually took your video and for 90 days just inserted a neighborhood inside of the subject line, I bet you in the third month, the open rate, you would actually see an increase in open rates, just because it feels like it was delivered to only the property owners in that one community.
Yeah.
That's really what we're focusing on. Again, I know it's a lot of work, and some people ask me, Greg, why are you telling these things? Competitors are going to see this video. It's like, look, if my competitor sees this video, no big deal. They still got to do the work. And so if I have a competitor that sees this video and they're willing to do the work, then great. We all get stronger because of it. But the reality is only about 3% of the people who actually hear a message like this will do something about it. That's what's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, and that starts with, being able to segment, a CRM correctly, and knowing which people are in the community, and that is where the foundation of that work starts. Oh my God. What?
Do you hear me?
Oh my God!
Wow!
Wow! Oh. We have 5 minutes.
Wow.
Okay, you want to see me do a 5-minute coaching call?
Yeah, let's do
or,
this.
or a coaching session? All right,
Yeah.
Brittany, write this down. Make a lot more contacts. Be tenacious in your follow-up, and then start over again tomorrow morning.
Sounds
That's
good.
it right there. No, just kidding. Um, I mean, the reality is to cover what we would want to cover in 5 minutes just won't happen. So
You know
Scott,
what though? Maybe what you can do is
yeah,
ask Brittany about her goals, just two
yeah,
or three that she has, and then maybe go through them. 1 minute piece of advice for each one.
okay, good.
Yeah.
So throw me out a goal, Brittany. What
Well,
we talked about some goals the other day. A business goal. What is one of the business goals?
one of the business goals is to have 25 listings by the end of our 60-day coaching that we're doing.
Yeah. So while we're doing some training together for 60 days, you want 25 listens, and remind me, how many do you have right now?
I have 9 currently.
Okay. So that goal's low.
It's too low?
Yeah, I think you got some listings since the last time we talked.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, because if you've got 9 already, and in 60 days you want to get to 25, that's only what, 15? That's only 16 listings? Well, if I can't help you get 16 more listings, then it's on me. I've got the problem, not you got the problem. So, what should the goal be? 30?
Well, sure.
Okay,
We can
good.
do 30. We can do
All
30.
right.
35. I mean,
Come shoot.
Well, 35, I'm starting to get scared. So, here's the thing, and I didn't give, no one knows any background on Brittany, but her work ethic is at a 10, and if there was an 11, her work ethic would be at an 11. So one of the things that she's got going for her is her work ethic. So here's the key, Brittany, that I would say for somebody like yourself, okay? In order to go from 9 to 30 listings, you have to be very deliberate at your time blockage for when you're going to be going after listings, because when you're going through an aggressive growth a spurt like that, then what you're going to have is you're going to get a lot of business, and then you're going to have a lot of paperwork, and then you're going to have a lot of showing of people calling you about this and about that. And what you're likely to do, which all agents that are a little bit newer in the business tend to do, is they tend to feel pressure to, if they don't return this email or send this email right now, that they're going to lose something. In other words, you'll have the tendency to feel very attached to all this stuff that's going to come at you, that you're going to feel like you need to go and respond. And so the key is instead of reacting to what's coming at you, you don't want to react to things that come at you when they come at you. You want to respond to those things when in your schedule.
Right.
So literally, what you're probably already doing, and that we'll have to stop, is from 8 to 11. I'm willing to guess that you may not be prospecting 100% of the time, that every single thought and activity between 8 and 11 is an actual outbound call. If it's not, then the challenge would be or the result of that would be you'll have a hard time getting those 30 listings. Okay? Then you have to look at this. You say, okay, I've got my 8 to 11, but what are you going to be doing on the evening calls? What are you going to be doing on Saturday? So that's your key. It's 8 to 11 Monday through Friday, a minimum of 3 evenings, and 1 Saturday, or at least 1 to 1.5 hours every Saturday. Now, for those of you that are hearing this, people should be thinking, holy cow, is she going to ever have any time for herself? Yes, after she gets the 30 listings, then what we'll do is we'll say, okay, now let's focus on her. See, what you're wanting is you want to have such a quick jump in production, and in order to do that, there'll be some personal sacrifices that'll have to be made. So I will never coach you to sacrifice your whole life forever, but for the next, say, 45 to 60 days, if you make these sacrifices with your work ethic and your ability to sell, you're a great salesperson, I think you'll really hit that target. 25, I think you can blow through.
Great. I can commit to that too. And I mean, I've been putting in the time on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday every week already. It's just going to be the night thing
Yes.
picking that up 3 nights a week, I think that could definitely make the difference to block out some space at night.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and don't overestimate how long this will take you, okay? Meaning you don't have to work 3 or 4 hours in the night. I can tell you right now, for most real estate agents, if I did a stopwatch test on them and I followed them for 3 hours of their prospecting, follow-up, or generating time, I bet you they're only really working an hour to an hour and a half. So if you don't have to work all night, but set aside 1.5 hours and then turn your cell phone off, turn the computer off, have all the people you're planning to call in that time period right in front of you, have any type of CMAs or anything that you might need for those calls, and you call for 1.5 hours straight. If you'll do that, it'll only take you 1.5 hours. If you have your cell phone on and you have your computer open, it's going to take you 2.5 hours.
Right.
So I hear a lot of people sometimes complain. They're like, "Well, Greg, man, I mean, how do you have any time for yourself if you're gonna spend that much time prospecting?" And that is because while you're prospecting, you should be prospecting, and versus co-mingling activities.
Yeah. How important, Greg, do you think it is to be in an environment where you're not being, where your attention's not being distracted by others that you have to be talking to or working with?
It's critical. And so what you want to do is you want to surround yourself with people that have very similar goals. Now, maybe their goals could be different in numbers, but you want the process of them getting to their goals, you want to surround yourself and be in communication and mastermind with people whose process to getting to whatever goal they have is very similar. So if you want to bulk up and lift more weights to get muscular, if somebody wants to do that, then surround yourself with others that have a very common goal. And go to the gym at the same time. What you'll find is you'll go to the gym at the same time, you'll eat the same foods, you'll have the same types of conversations, and you'll get the same kind of results. But if you have one friend that wants to, say, gain more muscle and one wants to actually run marathons, those are two totally different processes. So what you'll find is neither one of them will show up and hold each other accountable, because how they actually get to their goal is so different. One needs to be in the gym pumping iron, one needs to be out on the road pounding pavement. So it's not necessarily the goals have to be similar, it's the process to reach the goal has to be similar.
So Greg, I got a question about this. What does Brittany have to put in place now, knowing that she's going to be working to hit that goal of 30? What does she have to put in place now to help her continue to grow so she doesn't have hiccups of all the extra work that's coming onto her plate?
Brittany, so that's a good question. One of the things, Brittany, I think you have to do is have to have a schedule. You have to have all of your generating time blocked out. You have to then, here's the key, you have to then communicate with any human being that is in your life that could potentially interrupt you during that block of time. You have to let them know you're totally off limits 100% of the time. And if that means you have to turn your cell phone off, then you turn your cell phone off, because you and I both know that it's going to all come through text. And every time, and we all can resist at times returning a text, but none of us resist looking at it.
Right.
And so the fact that you look at it, that will take thousands and thousands of dollars out of your purse. I can promise you that, because you're mentally stopping, starting. So in the beginning, what you have to do is you have to be in communication with people that, hey, your job is to generate business and make sure that they do not get in your way. I remember when I was real young in this business, my dad would go into his office, and my dad never did stand up. He always sat down at a desk, old school. But one thing he did do is he took a green magic marker and a white piece of paper, and he wrote a dollar sign, and he would go in his office, shut the door, and tape the dollar sign to the outside of his door, which meant do not come in, because he's there making money. Do not interrupt. And that's what I would say you would really want to do, is you have to eliminate all distractions.
Okay. I think I can do that.
Sounds
The,
good.
So I got an idea, Greg. We're kind of coming to the end here, but I think what would be really cool is
Yeah.
to have Brittany on again, since we didn't get much time with her,
Yes.
in about a month from now, and we can kind of check in and see how she's doing, see if she's following up with the things that you talked to her briefly here, and then see if we can help her through the remainder of that time and into her process and her goals for the rest of the year. I think it'd be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those watching, remember she's got 9 listings right now. And so let's see how many Brittany, let's work together and see how quickly we can grow that. So the next time we get on this call, hopefully we can tell them you've got 15 or maybe 18 or maybe we just go straight to 30 and we won't have to worry about the last month.
I love it. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Sorry everybody for the technical difficulties. Brittany, definitely. Hopefully you will agree to participate next call, and
Absolutely.
We'll go from there. You want to wrap it up, Scott? Is that it?
Yeah, so thanks everyone for watching, and there'll be a replay put together, and we're going to get that out to everyone. But as you heard it, we'll get the check-in with Brittany in about a month or so, and go through everything that she's working on. So I think that's going to give you a really good snapshot of where she's at right now and what you can actually do if you follow a system and a schedule like Greg just talked about. So thanks for coming on, Brittany, and sitting there trying to get through. We really appreciate it. And Greg, why don't you take us off?
Okay, well, hey, you know, it's January, almost the end of January. It's 2016 for everyone in the real estate industry. Look, you can make this your best year ever. And just remember, if the market is showing volatility, do not get wrapped up in the emotions of what's going on. Wake up every morning, understand you've got a job to do, get into the office early in the morning, complete the task, go home. Do not get wrapped up in any of the emotions of what's going on in the stock market, the real estate market, interest rates, or whatnot. The consumer needs us to stay strong whenever there's uncertainty in the real estate market. So I hope that helps everyone, and we'll see you next month.